Okay. Oh. There we are. There we are. You're a star. We're gonna get through this, okay?
Welcome back to Beast Wars Wednesday.
Here's your host, Predacon Paul. And I am your host,
Decepticon Doug.
Paul's feeling a little under the weather today. And, you know...
I still look good.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, at least he's still pretty to look at. Boop. Today we're talking about the Low Road. It begins outside the Maximal base, where wild bean vines have grown out of control. Rattrap and Dinobot are on yard trimming duty. They begin to banter because that's what they do. And Rattrap decides to escalate things in a way that only Rattrap would. We get a nice juicy shot of Dinobot's butt.
It's quite juicy.
Yeah.
He definitely works out. He does not skip leg day.
This is one of many gratuitous butt shots in this episode. In fact, we're going to start a butt shot counter. And Rattrap takes a swing, hits one of the wild bean vines, and I don't know how hard he hit that little bean, but it caused Dinobot to fall over, and he got really mad and attacks Rattrap.
It put Dinobot down for a good second or two. The only time I've ever seen Dinobot go down that hard was when he gets shot in the back by Megatron.
So it turns out wild bean vines, quite an adversary. Timing couldn't be worse. The Predacon flyers are swooping in, and they're attacking the base. There's Inferno, and he's got a lot to contribute to this dialogue between the Maximals and the Predacons. Primarily, blah! Blah! So before the Maximals can raise the shields and turn on the autoguns, they have to get Dinobot and Rattrap back inside. But that's turned to be a problem because they're fighting too much. They aren't listening.
Dinobot is being a little melodramatic here.
So Rhinox has gone down to keep the Predacons away while they come back in the base, but they're still not coming back to the base. Tarantulas shows up, laughs maniacally like he so often does, and shoots a flying face hugger that it looks like it's supposed to hit Dinobot, but Dinobot gets out of the way just in time, and it attaches itself to Rhinox's face and injects what looks to be some kind of potion or virus potion virus. Dinobot decides to turn his attention away from Rattrap and blast Tarantulas over and over again.
Which was hilarious.
And Rattrap gets the thing off of Rhinox, but it's too late. All of the potion has gone into Rhinox. So they take him into the CR chamber to get a diagnosis of what it is that he's been infected with.
It's some type of virus that causes him to discharge energon at random through sneezing, his ears, and other places, but we'll get to that.
The blasts of energon that are emitting from Rhinox are so powerful they're literally puncturing the base. Case in point. As Terra starts flying away, one of the energy discharges hits him in the butt. Optimus sends Dinobot and Rattrap, since they're actually the most responsible for this whole thing happening. He sends them on a mission to find Tarantulas and figure out what it is that's infected Rhinox and if there's some sort of counter virus.
Along the way, they encounter a giant hole in the ground, which leads to a big metal slide.
Yeah, apparently the Tarantulas was setting up the foundation to a water park underground.
That was his big plan.
Yeah, after tumbling down this slide, a big rock followed them all the way down, kind of Indiana Jones style. Just as Tarantulas ambushes them, has his gun poised and ready to go, and he even prepared a great line to shut them down. The rock that was behind the Maximals hits a Tarantulas and splatters him against a wall. And I think this is the beginning of Tarantulas' tumultuous relationship with giant boulders.
Tumultuous. I
hope that's the right word to use. If not, I'm going to say the sentence again without it. And I think this might be the beginning of Tarantulas', let's say...
tumultuous. So meanwhile, this whole time, Megatron is trying to gather the troops for an all-out assault on the rest of the Minimals, so that way he can infect the rest of them. Doesn't seem like a very good plan, because they already know about the virus now. They're going to be protecting themselves.
Like this.
Good luck getting Optimus when he's in flight mode.
Oh yeah, all he's going to do is put his little thing down. He's like, there's no infecting him now.
It's like, darn it. He saw right through our plan. Megatron gathers the troops, wants to make more of the virus, but he can't because Tarantulas is being dragged behind Rattrap and Dinobot as they make their way to his lair so that way they can find the antivirus.
Mm-hmm. And don't ask Scorponok to do it. It's just not a good idea. If anything, he'll make a virus that accidentally makes all the Maximals more powerful. So Cheetor does a scan around the Maximal base and he notices that Dinobot and Rattrap are suddenly gone. And he's like, Optimus, I don't know where they are.
Optimus is like, either they're dead or they're someplace, and I don't care.
So he decides to organize Plan B and to gather up the rest of the Maximals to take the complaint to Megatron himself and attack the Predacon base to try and get the counter-virus. So he gets Tigatron, Airazor, Cheetor, and Rhinox is like, I'll come too, as he's basically like completely out of energy. Optimus is like, you can't come, you're gonna fall apart. He's like, I'm gonna sneeze and destroy their base. Optimus is like, okay, but eat something and turn to beast mode.
He eats lots of somethings. Beans.
There's a bunch of beans all around the Maximal base. Might as well eat them all. You know what they say about beans? They are a musical fruit. Rattrap and Dinobot are basically at Tarantulas' lab. Scorponok is like, here they come, and the ever so brilliant team of flyers take out their guns and start blasting at the entrance, despite the fact that Rattrap and Dinobot aren't there yet.
They're not even like, they're like probably like a good 10 or 15 meters away. And they start blasting the hell out of the opening. It's like...
And Megatron basically goes, no! No shooting until you see somebody. Now Rattrap and Dinobot know that the Predacons are there and waiting for them.
And then Dinobot in one of like... This has to be easily like in like my top 3 favorite Beast Wars moments. Picks up Tarantulas, walks into the open.
Do not fire, Megatron! I have a hostage!
Why, so you do.
And just demolishes Tarantulas.
He's just gone, he's in pieces.
Dinobot is surrounded by all the Predacons, but Rattrap snuck in through an air vent and blasts all the guns out of their hands. He's like, aha, I gotcha! And then you hear...
And then Scorponok.
Scorponok's very famous holler. The Maximals are all there, ready to fight to save Rhinox. Megatron doesn't like that. And he's like, hey, guess what I have? I got the counter virus. And now he's going to destroy it unless all the Maximals turn into beast mode and surrender.
They go into beast mode. Rhinox kind of turns around 180 degrees. And Megatron is all like, how dare you? Don't turn your back on me, Maximal.
But you know what's going on? Tummy troubles happening in Rhinox.
Those beans are hard to digest, as they say.
He releases the full fury of the Maximal army in that very moment from his little Rhinotuchus. Blasts.
His gamma burst butt shot.
And you can see it from orbit. The whole place is destroyed. On the Maximals, get the counter virus, head on back to base. I can't even explain what happens without it just sounding absolutely ridiculous. Like, is this really the same show that we've been reviewing this whole time? So the Maximals are back at home, fixing up the base. Rhinox is drinking the counter virus through like some straws and a little like beer hat on his head.
And the Predacons are hanging out in a tree.
Yeah, and Wasp and Ear fall down and go boom.
Alright.
The end.
Hang on. Decepticon Doug, please share with us what worked for you.
Especially kind of knowing in retrospect where this episode...
Retrospect. This is good. This is getting really good.
Okay, so especially knowing in retrospect...
The tumultuous relationship.
You want to talk about tumultuous relationship right now? I'll tell you one.
Come on, Doug. We're waiting.
Okay, yes. So in retrospect of the whole series, where this episode is placed, it's much needed comic relief. Because the series is about to get a lot more heavy. The home stretch of season 1 is pretty dark. This is a comedy episode. There was a chance for Beast Wars to kind of be a cartoon. It doesn't get to do that often. They were taking the material very seriously for the most part. But what's interesting is I feel the comedy, it doesn't feel forced. It works because everyone is so true to their character. Like, on paper, if you told me the story of this episode, and especially like the payoff of it, I'd say this is ridiculous. This is so stupid. Like you're gonna ruin the show. Like no one's gonna take the show seriously after this. But somehow in execution it works phenomenally.
I agree.
It's like, it's just, for whatever reason, just everything worked. The voice performances, timing, just like the writing, yeah, even the music.
The score was great.
Like everything just kind of like worked.
There's one moment in particular that really, really works for me. Dinobot gets himself into trouble by trying to take a hostage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Megatron blasts Tarantulas, and then with some quick thinking on behalf of Rattrap, he gets in behind them all, disarms them, and then the wall explodes. In come the Maximals. They're getting ready to face off. The music is starting to climb, and then all of a sudden, the camera pans down. Right as Megatron's about to like say something, Rattrap just walks through his legs. Hey, what's up? We got it under control. The music just dies in a very cartoon way. But it didn't take away from the gravity because, Rhinox is still in danger.
But even with Rhinox in danger, the way he was affected by the virus, it all just kind of lent itself to the comedic tone. But by far, the stars of this episode are Rattrap and Dinobot.
Scott McNeil.
Yeah, both played by Scott McNeil. So he's at a microphone basically dueling with himself in this really witty banter. Like, just like really funny character moments. And
Cheese eater!
And Dinobot is so unintentionally hilarious because of how seriously he's taking himself. And again, all the comedy works because he's just so true to his character. He's so Dinobot in this episode.
Yeah.
Like just protesting that he's basically scurrying through underground tunnels. And so he almost feels like he's on Rattrap's level. He always wants to go out in a big glorious battle. He feels like he's betraying who he is by going through these. And I think the episode is smart in that it sort of acknowledges how silly it is, even through its title. You could call it the low road because the characters are literally going through like underground tunnels. But it's also, in some ways, like it's the low road because the humor is very lowbrow. It's fart humor. And it's like goofy like violence of like, hitting a bean into someone's butt and then they fall over. And just like stuff like that. In a way, by sort of like saying like, hey, this one's going to be kind of dumb, it kind of makes it still smart,
Yeah, because the episode knows exactly what it is and just goes for it.
Total commitment to having a comedy episode. So yeah, I think that's what worked for me. I think I covered a lot of ground in there.
I think the entire episode, like you said, was great fun. It was hilarious. The characters stayed true to themselves, which is really, really important to us, given the fact that, we've had our grievances with other episodes, Dark Designs being one, where the Predacons are like kind of goofy and they're kind of acting out of character and completely abandoning reason and common sense, all to serve the plot of Rhinox being forced to be reckoned with when he's a Predacon. But in this one, everything's hilarious and it's funny, but that the humor is magnified by the fact that they are true to themselves. The bantering between Rattrap and Dinobot I thought was on point because you get bits of it here and there, and it's always nice to get episodes where like it's fully fleshed out and there's all these, and you get all these character interactions, and then you've got Dinobot and Rattrap being Dinobot and Rattrap. Well, in this episode, the fact that we get a whole episode of Dinobot and Rattrap that doesn't get old or tired, and the fact that you get to see how they work as a team. You've got a heavy hitter, Valhalla-bound warrior like Dinobot, and you've got a scurrying in the shadows, kind of subterfuge, resourceful character like Rattrap. The completely opposing styles, and they hate the fact that their counterparts in this episode have their own particular style of going about things, and yet in this episode they function so perfectly as a team, even though they're not actually working together.
Also, there's a lot of comedy in the details of this episode. Little moments like Dinobot just grabbing he just like notices one of those like scurrying little flashlight bots.
The double take was on point. He's in the middle of a sentence. He's like.
And other moments like in Tarantulas' lab, like for some reason there's a waspinator arm just lying around, and then Scorponok's like, what the? Little details like that kind of sprinkled through the episode. What didn't work? Like I almost want to say like the premise of the episode, but at the same time I already kind of justified it by saying like the writers knew that they were writing something really goofy, and the fact that they pulled it off, just kind of shows that Like sometimes execution kind of can trump a bad idea, you know?
I to be honest, I don't really have any complaints with this episode. I can't think of anything right now, at least.
Okay, I've got a few things. I have some nitpicks. Not exactly a major complaint about the episode, but just sort of like, it's sort of a pattern I'm noticing more and more in this sort of cluster of episodes, is that it seems like they just don't know what to do with Inferno, or Airraiser even. Dark Voyage, Possession, and now this one. It just seems like they don't know what to do with Airraiser. She was like basically sidelined for both of those. She gets like a line in this one. Inferno, again, he was kind of absent for the last couple episodes as well. And in this one, he goes, blah! And that's it. And I'm just starting to feel like, man, you guys are really underusing these new characters. And, you know, I appreciate that, like this story didn't really call for it. But it just feels like things should have been spaced out differently.
You know, I'm going to have to agree with you then. Not as a complaint on this episode per se, but yeah, there seems to be an issue with them finding something to do with Airraiser and Tigertron and Inferno. What gets me about that is we're coming up to the end of the season here, right?
Yeah. Again, yeah, with hindsight, knowing kind of how things play out with these characters, I feel like now, and like in retrospect, like this should have been very valuable time for them. Yeah, that's just sort of a shame. But at the same time, I feel like this is sort of the end of that dry spell. The next few episodes are going to help emphasize them a little bit better.
We're going to give this episode, after much deliberation,
We stroked our chins vigorously. 4
gamma ray butt bursts.
Great comedy. Works way better than it ought to. But yeah, you know, it's ultimately filler. I mean, it's kind of a nice filler because it's a breath of fresh air before things get thick.
Or a blast of fresh ass.
Heyo. But, you know, ultimately it's a episode of little consequence.
Tell that to Megatron and his pride.
Yeah. So this was a tipping point in the Beast Wars.
This is the Vimy Ridge.
Let us know what you thought of the Low Road, and please share in the comments. And if you like our episode, as always, give us a thumbs up and share with your friends.
Tell your mom.
Please follow us on Facebook. We're moving_pictures. Because Paul is falling apart, we're not going to do our traditional sign out. Put a little beer hat on and fill it up with this counter virus.
We can do this sign out.
All right.
I just want to shake my head.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Wow, 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 wow.
Today's episode is called The Probe.
In this case, it may be a certain kind of probe because there's a lot of butts in the episode. Heyo!